Alright, so the sequel to 2019 Shazam, Fury of the Gods, is finally available in theaters. This will be my spoiler-free review, so if you haven't watched the latest film, you are safe. However, there will be spoilers for the first film in this review. If you watch my review for Shazam 2019, you'll know that there was a big spoiler that I left out that happened in that film because I was trying to keep that review spoiler-free for the people that haven't seen it. But basically, the big thing that happens in that movie, of course, is all the kids get Shazam powers. In hindsight, I probably could have just talked about that in that review because the trailers for this newest film give that away immediately, along with a lot of other things. Before I get into the review aspects, let's talk about the plot synopsis and who's starring in it. In the plot this time around, we follow Billy Batson and the rest of the Shazamily, who last time we saw them have a lot more hero experience under their belts, but they're still not quite ready for the new villains who arise, the Daughters of Atlas, who seek to wage war on mankind and take the powers of Shazam. In the film, of course, as Billy Batson, we have Asher Angel, and as his alter ego, Shazam, we have Zachary Levi. As the two main villains of the film, we have Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu playing Hespera and Calypso. Another newcomer to the cast, we have Rachel Zegler as Anthena. Demon Hansu comes back as the wizard from the first film. And of course, the Shazamily, starting with the parents, we have Cooper Andrews and Marta Millens as Victor and Rosa Vasquez. As Freddie Freeman, we have Jack Dylan Grazer, and the superhero version of Freddie, we have Adam Brody. Playing both the regular and superhero version of Mary Bromfield, we have Grace Caroline Curry. Grace Caroline Curry did not play the superhero version of Mary in the first film. That was Michelle Borth. Not exactly sure why they stuck to just her playing both roles, but nevertheless, I didn't mind it. As Darla Dudley, we have Faith Herman, and as the superhero version of Darla, we have Megan Good. As Eugene Choi, we have Ian Chen, and the superhero version of him is played by Ross Butler. We have Joven Armand as Pedro Pena, and the superhero version of him is played by DJ Catrona. Where I want to start this review is the trailers themselves. I think the trailers gave way too much away, and that's not even talking about the big spoiler that the latest ads have been showing. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what's in that ad. If you saw the ad, don't spoil it for the people down in the comments below in case they didn't see it, but it is so unfortunate that they felt the need to spoil that in an ad to get people to go see the movie. I personally didn't have it spoiled for me. It came as a surprise to me, which is a good thing for me, but I feel so bad for the people out there who didn't get the chance to see it on the day it came out like me and had it spoiled for them just watching YouTube or TV.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin. This is serious. I know. This really is the world's smallest violin. See?
But even having not seen that particular ad and having it spoiled for me, I still felt the trailers themselves gave away too much because there was one scene in particular that came towards the end. They show a clip of it in the trailer. Knowing that that shot from the trailer still has yet to be seen makes more dramatic, more suspenseful elements. Not as dramatic or suspenseful, but more predictable.
You're pathetically predictable.
So yeah, basically just avoid the internet at all costs until you watch this movie. Shazam Fury of the Gods is directed by the same director of Shazam 2019, David F. Sandberg, who prior to working on Shazam mainly had experience with horror films. And I guess to officially get into the review, one of the issues I had with 2019's Shazam is that it had those horror elements in what was mostly a family-friendly film. Do they change that this time around? No, not at all. In fact, they double down on it, which I honestly have to respect because it's one of those criticisms that more than one person had about the last movie from what I've heard in other reviews. Yet, at the same time, he doesn't want to go back on his vision of what he wants these films to be. That being said, the big issue in 2019 Shazam is balancing those tones, and this film does do it better. But like I said, he does double down on the more horrific and suspenseful moments, so there's a little bit of balance, but not much. Honestly, the thing I'll say about the humor in this film is it's definitely dialed down as opposed to the last one, which may be a good or bad thing for some people depending on how much you liked or didn't like the last film. I think the comedic elements were definitely a high point for that last film, but the thing I loved most about that last film were the family elements. And honestly, I gotta say in this one, they even dial back a little bit on that. They still have moments that got to me, tugged on the heartstrings, made me tear up a little bit, but it's not as well done as it was in 2019 Shazam. Which is a very unfortunate thing to say because if you watch my review for that, you'll know that the family elements were the thing I was most excited to see in this next film, and I feel like they kind of skimped on it. I feel like the reasoning for that is because they just have way too much going on in the film. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but at times it kind of can be. You ended the last movie with them all getting powers, yet in this movie you really don't get enough of that. That should have been the biggest selling point of this movie is, for a majority of the film, seeing the entire family as the Shazamly, and you really don't. Which may or may not be a big spoiler for you guys, but at the same time, I think it's a good thing to manage those expectations before going into it. You're going to see more of Jack Dylan Grazer as Freddy than Adam Brody as Freddy. And then for some characters, you're going to see their superhero versions more than their kid versions, making the film just feel a little inconsistent, a little bit lazy. Seems like the only way they're really utilizing those powers is for convenience sake of the story. And then the villains. The villains aren't the most forgettable villains. They're better than the villain in the last film, but at the same time, they're a little one note. You have two villains in this film, Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu as Hespera and Calypso. Helen Mirren as Hespera in this movie is fantastic. I loved her. She has the most depth of the two villains. She has the best story arc of the two villains. When it comes to Lucy Liu, she's a great actress. I don't think she did anything wrong in terms of her acting whatsoever. I think it's purely the writing that they give her, but her character is extremely one note. But I do want to talk about Asher Angel. You really don't get a whole lot of Asher Angel in this movie. And along with that, Asher Angel as Billy Batson and Zachary Levi as Shazam oftentimes feel like two different characters. That was a bit of an issue that I had with the first Shazam film, is that they did feel like two different characters. But I chalk that up to Billy having more confidence as Shazam as opposed to his human form. With the sequel, I don't think I can use that excuse as much. I think the biggest issue the sequel has when it comes to matching the personalities is having a balance between Asher Angel as Billy and Zachary Levi as Shazam. And like I said with the others, sometimes you get more of them in the human form as you do in the superhero form, or you get more of them in the hero form as you do in the human form. This film really struggles having balance between the two.
You remember lesson about the balance?
Last negative I'll talk about before I get into positives. I know I'm only talking negative about this film so far, but the last negative is the action. I think the action for a majority of the film is pretty underwhelming, pretty generic, similar to a lot of other superhero films we've seen. Rachel Zegler's character has some sort of manipulation powers, similar to what Doctor Strange can do with the mirror dimension. And we've seen stuff like that not just with Doctor Strange and of course Spider-Man No Way Home, but also Inception. I feel like it's a concept at this point that's been overdone. But to segue into the positives, I watched this movie on an IMAX screen, and by the time you got to that final battle, the action was at an all-time high. They held out for a majority of the movie just so we can get some really great action at the end. That final scene makes it worth watching alone. I already mentioned how I liked Helen Mirren as Hespera and how I liked the action towards the end of the movie. I think the humor, even though it's not used quite as much as it is in the first one, still works a majority of the time. But the thing that works most for me in both of these movies is the family aspect. I did mention that in my negatives is that we just didn't get enough of the family aspect in the movie, but what we did get felt pretty redeeming by the time you actually got to it. I think the thing that continues to work about these films is just how great everybody works together. Everybody has so much charisma, also has so much chemistry on and off screen. Family aspects are what works most for me in this film, the reason why I would watch this movie again. At the end of the day, I still like the first Shazam more than this one. I still had a lot of fun with this movie, but not quite as much fun as I had with the first one. Still, it's a really great time. I think they definitely improved on some things, but also took a few steps back with a couple others. Honestly, I've said about all I have to say, so let's go ahead and rank this film. Shazam! Fury of the Gods from 2023 is a standard ticket. If you like the first film, there's a really good chance you're going to like this one here. Maybe not quite as much as the first one, but I still think there's a lot of enjoyment to get out of it. Along with that, stay vigilant out there. If you don't want spoilers for Shazam! Fury of the Gods, I'd recommend staying off YouTube until you can watch it in theaters, because, like I said, they are spoiling something very big from the movie in a simple ad. That definitely wasn't the best marketing decision. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea, but nevertheless, try not to get it spoiled for you. But have you seen 2023's Shazam! Fury of the Gods? Tell me down in the comments below, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you in the middle? Please, if you have seen the film, no spoilers down in the comments below. Have you not seen the film? Are you planning on watching it anytime soon? Why or why not? Comment that down below as well. Really, any comments you have for me, I'd very much appreciate hearing from you. I respond to as much as I can. Do me a favor and leave a like on this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload, and I will see you in the next one.